Welcome to the last video, and this is a time when I'm going to tell you in detail. We've talked about all the foundational stuff now, how to read an article. And this is an article from some of your classmates. The academic conference is a chilly climate for women. I loved this article. One, I love that it does a lot of analyses, and I'll go through what to look for. And two, I also loved what it says, which is there is a chilly climate. Not that I love that there's a chilly climate for women, but that it shows that there's a chilly climate for women in academia, which is really unfortunate and is a reality. And I'm glad people are talking about this finally. So very quickly, what do I do to read an article? So I first, of course, have read the abstract when I read an article. Now, there are some articles that I'm writing about that are very important for my paper, usually under 5. It's usually 2 or 3 articles that are essential for my paper, where I'm really digesting them and I'm reading the article in depth. And there are a ton of other articles for my paper. In your papers, it's going to be chapter 2 and chapter 5 especially. There will be a ton of articles where you're just using them to cite a claim of fact. I don't read them in nearly so much detail. So I'm going to go over how I read an article. You've read the abstract from an abstraction service like ABI Inform or Medline or APA SiteNet or whatever it is. That's an abstraction service, and there's lots of them out there, and they're discipline specific. So you've already thought this is useful. Now, a lot of people read an article in a linear format. They start with the abstract and then move into the introduction and so on and so on. I don't do that. When I'm reading an article and I really want to digest it, I really want to make sense of it, the first thing I do is go to the discussion. I skip all this. You see, I'm whipping through all this. And I go right to the discussion. And I start to read at the beginning of the discussion because it summarizes the results. This is not a mystery novel. In a mystery novel, the idea is they want to surprise you at the end with the findings. Academia doesn't write mystery novels. It tells you in the abstract the findings up front. I want to know the findings. I want to get my frame of reference. I want to get my schema for the article. So once I read this discussion, then I have a schema for what the article should be like. And so this talks about the beginning, the present study documents systematic differences by gender and type of conference, as well as connections among sexist climate, silencing, and academic exit intentions for women. And now I am going to go to our first set of research questions addressed blah, 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 blah. Okay. Women overall are more likely to report perceiving sexism than men across all conferences. Hypothesis 1. We also examine coping responses as predicted. Women, and you see I'm skipping tons of stuff here, engaged in more silence than and voice than did men. Wow, look at that. Okay, that's pretty shocking. Regarding exit intentions, overall, exit intentions were very low and did not vary much by gender or conference type. But then there was something in here, leaving academia and intentions to. So right there. So, however, women express greater intent to exit academia than did men. Okay, these now have given me the frame of reference. And by the way, Sex Roles, this journal is the top journal in the field. So, it's worth reading this article because it does give you a feel for a really good article. Now let's go digest some statistics. And I am going right to the table 1 because this table gives you a ton of stuff. Over here are correlation coefficients, bivariate correlation coefficients, lowercase r. They range from negative 1 to positive 1. Closer to 0 is not meaningful. Closer to 1 is meaningful. The asterisks behind them represent statistical significance. 1 asterisk is p less than 0.05. 2 asterisks is p less than 0.01, showing that it has a greater level of statistical significance. And that's just a correlation coefficient. And the way you read this is climate, and I'm just going to go with that 0.4, climate CM, which is conference material, climate around conference material, is what is it for women, what is it for men, and you've got the mean. On average, women have 2.62, report 2.62 climate about conference material, whereas men report 2.35. And then in the parentheses behind it is the standard deviation. How much does that mean deviate on average? Remember, standard deviation is just the average deviation. So that's reading this table. Climate is correlated by 0.40 with 2, which 2 is climate SAT. So SAT is sexist attitudes and treatment. So if the materials are perceived as sexist, there's also a relationship with sexist attitudes and treatment. They're related, okay, positively rated. And actually, that's a pretty high correlation for the social sciences. So that's what that means. Now, I'm going to skip down and I'm going to look at the graphs, because now we have conference by gender. Notice I'm looking right at the descriptive statistics, the simple stuff, not even the inferential statistics yet. And I'm saying, well, what's happening here? Women and men. So this is women and this is men. And when I have articles, I draw all over them like this. And what is their perception of sexist reputational climate? Well, women think there's a reputational climate and men don't report. Women report when there's a low representation of women in the conference. Women report a sexist climate around who is considered high reputation, men or women. And that's not so much for when there's equal representation of women. These are about the same. So is that statistically significant? Now we're going to go digest some of these statistics. It's a Manova. And remember, ANOVA is looking at differences across groups. In this case, it's women versus men. It's only 2 groups. So that part could have been done with a t-test or an ANOVA. But the important part of this is the Manova, which means multiple dependent variables. And they're multiple dependent variables, just because I've read this article already, are these 3 things all at once. So that's what they're doing. Now, when we're digesting this, we want to look at, remember, you can never interpret, I said this a long time ago, inferential statistics without descriptive statistics. And here are your core descriptive statistics right here. So this is the important part of, of your study. I erased everything, sorry. Your descriptive statistics, and also that figure that I was just showing you. So is there statistical significance? There's a main effect of gender, okay? The key part is this p-value. It is statistically significant, which means there is a main effect for gender. It means women and men have a perceived difference. Looking at this table tells you what that perceived difference is. Women perceive a more sexist climate overall, main effect. And now this holds true for 3 different tests: for reputation, sexist attitudes and treatment, and conference materials. So all are significant and all P's are less than 0.01. And here's that effect size, which by the way is a small to moderate effect size. The first two are small, one moderate, but there is an effect size. And that this is across all conferences. And now you can start to pull apart this. These are moderate effects. Well, hold on a second. These are moderate effect sizes. Go look at that chart that I put on Blackboard. This is a small effect size. That means this is meaningful. It's somewhat meaningful or somewhat important. There's sexism. And you can digest all of these means and standard deviations. The most important part are the means to show that difference. And then another one, whole analysis around coping responses rather than this one, which around the first ones I talked about, sexist climate. So hopefully you can start to peel apart. And this has tons and tons of data in it. You can't interpret the inferential statistics, the p-values and the effect sizes without the descriptive statistics. And that's why I jumped right to the descriptive statistics. Now, a path analysis, they didn't give their theoretical model first. They just went straight to the structural equation model, path analysis. And what you're seeing here are the beta weights for women and, let me change colors, the beta weights for men. And again, I know this because I've read this article and it says it down here in this area. So, and it's saying what is predictive. And so what we have going on here is sexist climate predicts silence, which predicts exit to academia. For women and men, sexist climate predicts silence, okay, for both women and men, but it only predicts exit of academia for women. Sexist climate predicts exit for academia directly for women, not through silence, indirectly through silence, and directly from sexist climate, but only for women. Okay? Sexist climate predicts voice. And actually, this is a negative prediction that the greater the sexist climate, the lower the voice, if you read the article, and so on and so on. So this is walking you through the structural equation modeling, showing all the things that this sexist climate predicts. It predicts silence, exit for academia, voice, gendered performance, and is negatively predicted, again, read the article, they should have a negative in there, for feminine gendered performance. And now interesting, it does not predict for women an exit of the conference. It does for men. I don't know why that is. That doesn't make sense for me. I don't think they ever explain it. So very quickly, that's breaking down an article. I did that fast. Hopefully it makes sense, but it hopefully is helps you to pull apart articles the way I've helped many of you do so.